Look,
like you work with?
I've coached in high pressure situations, right? Like
Yeah.
job on the line and 85,000 people in the stands and
Amazing.
ESPN Saturday nights. And so I can tell you that there will never be a time in either of my sons' athletic careers where it will be that serious.
Yeah.
And I hope that I'm always able to bring levity to the other dads around and be like, hey guys, let's share a little bit of perspective.
Hello and welcome to this edition of the Founding Fathers podcast, where we discuss the intersection of entrepreneur life and dad life. We cover it all together here: baby bottles and business models, pitch decks and play dates, and everything in between. And here with us today, we've got a guest that we're super excited about, Marc Nudelberg from On the Ball. So Marc is a former Division I football coach turned business leader, youngest Division I football coordinator, if I'm not mistaken.
At one time, I was.
He is a TEDx speaker. We'll throw a link somewhere down here below. He's an author, a book called Family, Football, and Failure. We'll throw another link somewhere down here below. And now he's the president of On the Ball, a family-owned sales and leadership consulting company. So you want to go ahead and just give yourself your own intro here, Marc? Tell us a
Sure,
little more
just
about yourself.
thank you guys for having me. I'm wildly jealous of the name of your podcast just because I'm a big history fan as well. So the idea of founding fathers is just plays on my heartstrings right there.
Yeah.
And then obviously being a founder and being a father and the way that plays in so many different ways. It's a brilliant name. And kudos to you guys for being founding fathers and balancing that constant trade-off between being an entrepreneur and being a husband and a father and all of the things that come along with it. So I'm excited to be here and thank you for honoring me as a guest.
Yeah, thank you. And in addition to the background here, Jakob, I don't know, you know this, but Marc and I actually have a lot in common. We both went to high school in South Florida. We're both
wow.
entrepreneurs. We're both fathers. We're
Yeah.
sons of fathers who were entrepreneurs. And we have amazing last names, Nudelberg and Kaufman. I mean, I don't think it gets any better than that.
Yeah. Well, Dan, you ended up with a way better nickname though. Like people could call you Cash. I've
Yeah.
always been Coach Noodle. It's not exactly like a luxurious nickname. I've always been Noodle and Coach Noodle for my entire life. So like Cash is way cooler.
But
Awesome.
as a dad, do your kids get excited whenever they watch like Mickey Mouse? Or they're like, "Hey, Noodle!" Like, have you ever seen that?
Elmo.
Oh, is it Elmo?
Mr. Noodle from Elmo.
So neither of them have really grasped the nickname yet. So my oldest is 9, my youngest is 3. The 9-year-old isn't super into sports.
Yeah.
Really into rock climbing and some other like individual sports.
Yeah.
So he's getting into soccer. So maybe as the soccer continues to take hold, he'll get that Noodle nickname on the team. But my 3-year-old, if it doesn't move, he hits it. If he can pick it up, he runs with it, and like he's just all that all the time. And so I'm sure it won't be long before he's on his first team and people will be calling him Noodle and me Coach Noodle. And that'll just be what happens.
That'll be fun.
What kind of dad are you going to be on the sidelines? Are you going to be like good coach, or are you going to be like crazy dad?
Look,
like,
I've coached in high pressure situations, right? Like job on the line and 85,000 people in the stands and ESPN Saturday night. So like, I know what real competition looks like and when it's like, it actually is life or death. And so I can tell you that there will never be a time in either of my sons' athletic careers where it will be that serious.
Yeah.
And I hope that I'm always able to bring levity to the other dads around and be like, hey guys, let's share a little bit of perspective.
You mean the guy at my son's flag football game who's screaming at the ref who just showed up and put on a t-shirt?
Right. The 14-year-old kid who's getting paid like $8 an hour.
Exactly. He's doing it all wrong, that guy. He's just advocating for his son. Come on.
Yeah, I'll tell you, like, and I wrote about this on LinkedIn yesterday because it happened Sunday night. I think we are in a really interesting place in our country when it comes to fandom and being a fan, because like the Buffalo Bills fan that like pushed Lamar Jackson's head.
That's right.
In what world do you think that that's an acceptable behavior? It's a crazy world we live in now.
Yeah. That is a world of
action is a different animal now.
It's no boundaries, and probably a world of about 35 beers. But yes.
Entitlement too, right? Just entitlement. Like you somehow feel like you have a right to do that. That sense of
Not
entitlement is great.
uncool.
So
So
I
uncool.
can do
Yeah.
anything to curb that within our organization and my boys and our family. That's a win for me, is curbing the sense of entitlement.
Yeah. So you made reference to the high pressure stakes in the coaching world. So as you transitioned from coaching into the business world, like do you have like a pregame ritual? Like so before you go out for like a keynote or like a sales training or something like that, do you have like your own like game day ritual?
So my pregame ritual is my daily routine now,
Yeah.
right? Which is very similar to when I wasn't coaching. Like for me, I get up early. I, get a workout in. I do a little bit of reading, a little bit of writing, and I just set my intention for the day that way. And by 7 a.m., I'm showered and ready to go and ready to take on whatever the next priorities are. And that was sort of my routine in football and on game day. Things like getting to the stadium and walking the field and getting a feel for everything and going through like checks and balances. I will say if I'm speaking at like a sales keynote now or some kind of company kickoff, I'll get there early. I'll look at the room. I'll check the AV. I'll check the
Yep.
presentation. I'll do some preparation to make sure that we're prepared, which I think just comes from that coaching background. And
Yeah.
if there's anything that anybody should take away from what makes you successful, it's your ability to prepare and be prepared. And just
Yeah.
like those little routines that were just ingrained in me from coaching football, whether it was pre-practice, whether it was pre-meeting, whether it was pre-game, it didn't matter. That word pre was always so important because that was your final preparation point
Yeah.
before you were like, whatever happens after this, we're going to have to adapt, adjust, and overcome. So am I as prepared as I can be for
Yeah.
whatever's coming?
Yeah. That makes sense.
Avoid
Uh,
any self-inflicted wounds, right? That's a coaching term that we used to say all the time.
My son, I have a teenage son, and he just discovered that the line of failing to prepare is preparing to fail, which is a famous line. He just So I was like, I'm so happy you said that, because now when I ask you to get your backpack ready before, the night before, you know what I'm talking about now.
Yep, that's exactly
But yeah,
correct.
100%.
And I really do think that, like, I was fortunate that I worked around a lot of good football coaches, and they helped me understand what good preparation actually was. You
yeah.
Mhm.
know, if you don't have anybody show you what it looks like, if you don't have anybody show you what in your day-to-day life preparation looks like, it's really hard for you to figure it out for yourself. So it's
Yeah.
nice to have somebody that can guide you and say, "Hey, what does preparation looks like?" It looks like picking out your outfit the night before. It's making sure your bag is organized and you've got your calendar printed out
Yeah.
for the next day, or you've reviewed your calendar for the next day, and just setting
Yeah,
yourself up for success.
Yeah.
I love that. That's Atomic Habits talks about that also.
Great book.
Stick the small things, get prepared for those, and that will take you to the next level.
And it's compounding behaviors, right? So like you start to do that one little thing, and then all of a
Yeah.
sudden it makes adding another one to that. Like he calls it habit stacking, but like, it becomes possible once you ingrain one thing to
Yeah.
add on the next. Like
Yeah.
daily disciplines and the daily behaviors, and not thinking about the results and not focusing on outcomes, but really what does it look like to practice and prepare like a champion every single day? What does it look like in the weight room? What does it look like in the classroom? And focusing on all those little behaviors, and that idea of 1% better, right? That
Yeah.
idea
Right.
of just small, tiny incremental gains every single day.
Yeah.
That's the tagline in our company, 1% better every day.
Yeah.
And we built our entire philosophy and strategy around that. And then all the components that go into it, like
Yeah.
mindset and time management, which allow you to, regardless of role,
Yeah.
whatever it is you do, be successful.
Yeah.
How do you bring that to the kids? So,
Oh, it's
as
hard.
as a dad, all these concepts, they're a little bit higher, right? A 9-year-old's gonna have a challenge. What are some of the tactics that you're gonna use to bring this to the kids?
You try to simplify it, right? And just keep it like really behavior based. And so, like, I'll give you for an example. Like, my son has a big reading test today, right? It's a statewide test that they deliver
Yeah.
to all the fourth graders. Big test day for him, right? So instead of talking about like rerunning over the words or the concepts, right? I say, well, what is important for us to remember in order to execute well inside of a testing environment? Taking our time, right?
Mm.
rereading the questions, process of elimination inside of the answers. And so
Right.
instead
All
of
the
being like,
steps.
oh, we want to get a great score, it's no. Are you going to take your time? Are you going to reread? Are you going to process of elimination through the answers? And then are you going to go back and double check it again to ensure? Right? Because if
Right.
you do those things on every single question, nearly impossible to fail unless you actually just don't know any of the material.
Right.
It means that our teachers didn't do a good job preparing us with the information, and we didn't do a good job preparing and studying at home. And there's a lot of things we can own from that. And so I try to just keep it really simple and saying, if we want to get a good test score, what are the things we need to do in order to be able to do that? Not saying,
Yeah.
hey, you need to focus on process, and not
Yeah.
giving him the coaching talk, but giving him the actual actionable behaviors and the
Yeah.
things he can focus on and know to help him do that.
Yeah, I think it's such a good point because, like, I feel like so often with kids, it's easy to be like, "Hey, why did you do that? Why don't you know that you need to manage your time?" Like, oh, well, because management is a word he doesn't even understand, and
Right.
time is a
Right.
concept that he marginally has his head around. So, like, time management is such an abstraction that, like, it means nothing. So, like, you can yell at your kid all day long about time management, but, like, it literally means nothing to them.
Well, even more so to the fact of like, okay, let's say that your son is not excited about school, right? Or
Right.
your daughter or your kids, whatever, is not excited about school. Well, you know that that's a byproduct of the way they're perceiving school. You know
Right.
that's a byproduct of their mindset. But I can't tell them, oh, well, we need to change our mindset and we need to change our perception, because they don't know what either one of those things mean, right? So I then say, well, let's talk about some things we can be excited about for school. What's one thing that you know is going to happen that you can be excited about, right? And
Yeah.
so instead of saying you need to change your perspective or saying you need to change your mindset, I'm going to give them the behaviors to do that are
Mhm.
going to lead to that result. And then as they get older, then they can start grasping some of the concepts behind it. But
Yeah.
I will tell you, it's no different than teaching football, right? Like, I never on day one of coaching special teams was like, okay, here's our punt play, right? Or here's our kickoff coverage,
Mhm.
right? It
Mhm.
was, I taught them how to, we called it taking the line, which is the running start that you get from where they are to where the ball is when it gets kicked. I taught them how to do that really well. And then taught
Mm.
them what to do in the next phase of the field, and then
Yeah.
taught them to do in the next phase of the field. So you build these behaviors. Then once
Really broke it down.
and ingrained as a habit, you go, great. Now I can teach you the play, because now here's where all these things are going to come together in order for you to do that successfully. It's no different than with a receiver and teaching them how to get in the stance and how to
Yeah.
start every single time. It's all these little things that lead to bigger. So
Yeah.
anytime we're trying to teach a concept inside of parenting, it's really important for us to teach the behaviors first so they can understand the behaviors, then
Right.
understand the concept.
Yeah. You could label those collective set of behaviors. And at that point, they'll be like, oh, so I've been doing this, but now they understand what they're doing.
Correct. Which I
Yeah.
like in our business, whether it's leadership development or sales training, right? Like, you don't just here's our 7-step process to selling, or hey, here's our 6 pillars of leadership. You teach it incrementally. Hey,
Right.
how do you get somebody's attention? How do you
Mm.
get them to engage with you? How do you
Right.
get into the conversation? And what should that first conversation sound like and look like? And you
Right.
should compound all these behaviors so that then you go, now you got it. Right. And it's all ingrained in you to where you don't have to think about it. You have to go back to your checklist. Oh yeah, what was that thing I was supposed to say, or how I was supposed to do it? You've just developed the process for yourself by teaching each individual behavior and stacking them on top of each other, which is straight out of Atomic Habits.
Yeah. Yeah. It's kind of like your wax on, wax off kind of moment, like,
Exactly
y-
correct.
yeah.
Exactly.
Gosh. Yes.
Well, I guess we have a new sales idea, a new business idea here that we've born today. So, Mr. Miyagi leadership training. I think
There you
if you
That's
guys want to
right.
go in on it, I'm willing to cut you guys in.
We're
I
Uh,
gonna
love
start. We're gonna start with a car wash. We'll just go to the car wash and we'll do that.
mhm. So, one of the things I think that is definitely unique about your journey is, you're a founder and a father, but you were the son of a father entrepreneur. So, tell me about that. Like, how has that experience A, what was it like? And then B, how has that shaped now your thought process in this next chapter for you?
It was awesome. I mean, I can tell you that growing up, I was one of the very few kids who had an entrepreneurial dad or an entrepreneurial parent at all. So me, it opened up pathways in my brain of like, oh, it's not this American way of you just go get your degree and get a job at a big organization and climb the ladder. Like I was able to watch my dad build on the ball, which is the name of our company, which he had started 30 years ago that we've now, restarted together and partnered with. But I watched him build it from the backyard of our house, from the
That's
loft
awesome.
of our house, from a brick cell phone and those old portable phones. Like, and I think so you kind of, for me, you grow up with a vision of work that there's not this like work family separation. It's not
Right.
9 to 5, right? I'm not clocking in and clocking out. When we teach time management in our trainings, that's one philosophical shift that we have to have everybody make is that you are one person and you
Mm,
have one life. So it is not about work life balance, right? They're not two separate lives.
Mm. Yeah.
Right? It is two priorities inside of one life that you need to
mm,
figure out how to properly allocate time to every day,
Yeah.
which growing up with an entrepreneurial dad, you saw that. Like I was in trouble if I left the portable phone off of the charger and it died because guess what?
mm.
Business calls weren't coming into the house. And then I was
Right.
getting ass reamed for it because, I left the phone off the charger, but that was work inside of the house, right? And so whether it was going to events with him, whether it
Mhm.
was going on meetings with him, whether it was just understanding that like when you are an entrepreneur, it really means taking ownership of the growth of a business and what
Yeah.
that really looks like inside of he still coached my baseball teams, right? And he
Right.
still went to parent teacher conferences. And was he there all the time? Of course not. Nobody's there all the time. Even stay at home parents aren't there all the time, So, like, he did an unbelievable job of being present and being there and showing me as a kid that you could do that, which then as I grew through my career served me kind of, good and bad because I was never afraid to take a risk. I was
Yeah.
never afraid to bet on myself. I was
Right.
never afraid to challenge the status quo and believe in myself. But inside of college football doesn't always help you, right? Because
Right.
a lot of athletic directors that don't want you to challenge the status quo. There's a lot of head coaches that don't
Yeah.
want you to challenge the status quo.
Yeah.
Just follow the game plan. Just follow the game
Right?
plan.
A lot of guys who just want you to sit in the seat and do what you're told to do,
Yeah.
which growing up as an entrepreneurial in an entrepreneurial family, that just wasn't a thing that was accepted, right? We
Yeah.
were always challenging to get better and to grow and to so I think my philosophy, which helped me a lot in coaching, also, created some dynamics for me that wasn't always great in my football career.
Yeah.
But I would say now what's funny is that like anytime that we talk about getting into a development program with another company, we ensure that they're on board with us developing intrapreneurs, right?
Mhm.
Mm,
We're going to develop leaders that take ownership of the growth of the business, which means you're going to get challenged. They're going to get taught to think critically. They're going
Yeah.
to get taught to problem solve. They're going to get taught to work autonomously. And if that's not the kind of organization you want, we're probably not a right fit for you guys because that's what we're
that's a
looking.
great point.
Yeah, I mean, it's to your point. You talked about like working in the backyard, and the phone in the house is the top of the funnel really for you guys back then, right? So the yeah, I think that's such a
Right.
huge difference, right? Between like, am I training leaders within an organization to function in that context, or am I teaching people to be entrepreneurs, leaders who could then theoretically be dropped into any context, right? So I think about you
Bingo.
know yeah, I mean, because at that point, like the skills are just so transferable, and I think back to my watching my father when I was a kid, and one of the things that's always stuck out to me is people think about like, oh, your dad owns his own business, like he's, your frame of reference is being an employee in a business. So you think about a guy running the business, you think he's here, you think like, oh, it's glamorous, it's great. I
Right.
mean, he was renovating hotels in South Beach back when South Beach was a dump, and he was
Yep.
literally renovating them one floor and then offering them at a discount to whoever would come, and then
Right.
renovate the next floor, offer a discount to whoever would come, right? And
Yeah.
and he was everything. He was sales, he was marketing, he was sweeping up downstairs, parking the cars if he had to, like whatever. And I think that that's just it gives you an exposure. In some ways, kind of lowers the threshold to then founder life because you realize like how much of it is just scrap. Like you just got
You
to
know
be
that it's just
scrappy.
work, right? Like,
Yeah.
the first chapter in my book is do the frickin' work. Right?
Right.
Because if there was anything that I learned about being successful, it always comes back to doing the work, which I think when you're raised by an entrepreneur, you just see it all the time. So for me, it was like that was the standard. Like
Right.
that's what the expectation is that you do the work. And that's not always the case when you're dealing with people who are employees of other businesses that are
Yeah.
9 to 5 and that, kind of create that separation and they're just there to do what their job is and collect a
Hmm.
paycheck. And it's just a completely different vision of what work is, and it's actually a big part of the reason that I'm on the board of Junior Achievement down here in South Florida, because that's part of Junior Achievement's mission is
Right.
creating those opportunities and those pathways in kids' brains for them to view it differently for kids who would not normally get that. So,
Yeah.
like, I
Yeah.
think it's huge for us as parents and founders that we recognize what
Yeah.
we're showing our kids and what the benefit of that is for them.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, I was just talking with my son and talking about, when you talk about skill and talent to cultivate, I was saying, there's a lot of skill and talents, and you could look at certain things to learn, but nothing will beat work ethic. Just fall in love with working hard. And when
Uh-huh.
you fall in love with working hard, you could point that at whatever you want to point it, and it will take you somewhere.
Yeah.
So, Mark, curious, as how has being a dad informed you being a founder? What have you taken from fatherhood into your business?
So for me, right, we live the acronym FOE, family over everything, right? And so then that you have to make some really hard decisions sometimes,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
About opportunities for the business and how much time you're away and managing the sacrifice that is inherently involved when you are dealing with priorities. You only
Mm.
have 24 hours in a day,
Yep.
86
Yep.
and 400 seconds. That's it.
Mhm. Yeah.
All you got. So you get to decide how much of that is with your family and how much of that is with work and how much of that is with yourself. And so for me, I think really understanding that there is a sacrifice involved with the business and maybe how quickly we can get to a certain milestone or even possibly what the ceiling is based on my willingness to sacrifice family to get there. And
Yeah.
so I
Yeah.
think that's a big one for me and having compassion for people we hire and people we work with and saying, you can make that sacrifice if you want to, but you don't have to. Not going to
Yeah.
be our expectation that you make that, but then you also have to be okay with what sacrifice is. Like, look, it's just a different world that we live in now than when I was being raised. And my dad did a wonderful job of being present, but turns out there's an even different expectation for dads in today's world than there was then. And so I think
Yeah.
managing that in today's world and recognizing that that has a direct correlation to the sacrifices you have to make professionally and inside of your business, you got to understand how to navigate those.
Yeah. If you look back on your childhood experience and what you saw of your father, like what's one thing that you would purposefully say I'm not going to do based upon what you saw?
So I think my dad just by nature rode the wave of the
Yeah.
business. When things were great, things were great. And when things weren't good. And that was
Hmm.
just his leadership style. It was his personality style, right? And so I felt that as a kid, right? You feel,
Yeah.
oh, things are good. We can do whatever we want. Things are
Yeah.
not good. We're gonna be tight,
Yeah.
And like
Yeah.
I think
But
you don't really understand that as a kid. So you don't really know how to process it or what to really do with it.
yeah.
So I think for me, like I try to create as much consistency for
Yeah.
my kids and whether business is good or business is bad, it doesn't really matter. I'm still your dad. I'm still going to be present. We're still going to
Yeah.
do everything we can to support you and help you and not necessarily riding the wave like that. I'd say that's
Yeah.
probably one thing that I would not model from him.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, any job is going to translate to the home life culture and what the kids feel. But I think, yeah, in the entrepreneurial life, it's so much more influence on the temperature of the whole household.
And you see it all the time in football too. Like, don't get me
Yeah.
wrong. Like, there were plenty of games that we didn't win that all of a sudden I went home and I carried it into the house with me because I was
Yeah.
upset.
Right.
Like, you got to
Yeah.
realize that like that little toddler doesn't give a shit what happened on the third punt of the game,
Right.
whether or not that right guard blocked the guy the way he was supposed. He don't care. he wants you to read Lion King to him. It's like, and so who are you hurting by carrying that into
Right.
that scenario? And I just think it's a good leadership principle to try to be as even keeled as possible. I think emotion serves you well in a lot of instances, and it
Yeah.
doesn't in a lot of instances. So I think
Yeah.
understanding how to use excitement and encouragement for motivation in times
Yeah.
that are appropriate, but then understanding that you can't then go to the other side of the spectrum,
Yeah.
that actually when things go wrong, you need to be even more level-headed and more calm and more
That's right.
composed.
Yeah.
And I there's a lot of leaders that, or particularly for me in my life, that didn't model that very well. So I had to figure
Yeah.
it out, and it's a challenge for me all the time.
Yeah. Yeah, I could always tell how the business was going by what my dad's body language looked like when he was outside smoking. We had a
Right,
terrace, and he would kind of like lean over the terrace, and he would either be like, he'd either be holding his head for like a solid 20 minutes,
right,
or he'd be
right.
kind of, people watching whatever was happening, out on the
And
beach.
we're
But
humans, right? Like it's not that we're not supposed to feel that, but I
yeah,
think as parents, I think we got to do a better job of understanding what's being seen.
yeah,
And if we're not going to actively engage in those conversations to help our kids understand, then we're
yeah,
better off just saying, "Hey, like I'm going to be as composed as possible and show you the same
hmm,
consistent, show you the same person as much as I can." And
yeah.
then as you get older, maybe I can explain to you some of the nuances of what we do here.
The kids are so literal, right? Like, so, like, whether it's football or business, people talk about follow the leader, and the leader sets the example, and it's all true, right? And you can tell the type of leader a team has by seeing the way the team behaves.
Yep.
But I feel like with parenting, it's true, and it's so much more true, but it's literal, right? So like with a team, a business team, like I can see it in their behaviors, I can see it in their tone, I can see it in what they do, what they don't do. But with kids, it's just so literal. Like my
It's
my
the
son will say
actual
something,
words that come
right?
out of your
Yeah,
mouth.
yes. So my son will look at me and say like, "Why does your face look like that?"
Right,
I'm like, "Oh wait, I don't know. Why does my face look like that?" And I'm like, "What was I just thinking about?" And
right.
why does my face look this way? Or they're in a fight, and I hear one of them say something, and it's not similar to something I said to them before. It is
It is.
verbatim to something I said before, and I'm like,
Yeah,
"Ooh, uh oh."
yeah. Like, I mean, my toddler, so there was one day that we're at the grocery store, he's very independent, he wants to have his own basket to carry for himself, so he's carrying his basket, and he drops the basket, and he goes, really low tone, soft tone, damn it, and I was like, "Oh, like, used in perfect context, used in, I mean, like, spot on," and I was like, "Yeah, it's me, isn't it?" But, like, he said it, I mean, in, like, by inflection and tone of voice and
Yeah,
situation, just, like,
yeah.
perfect, you know?
He nailed his lines.
Nailed it. Just absolutely nailed it. It was
Oh, that's
crazy.
funny. What about, advice for a new founder, someone starting out? What would you give advice for a new founder?
Keep it simple, right? I think for me, if there were many years where I was just, like, focused on too much,
Hmm,
and I allowed there's so much to do and there's so much we have to do. Like, if you can take one simple thing and make that really, really good, and then start to figure out how to scale around that.
yeah,
That is the keep it simple,
yeah,
right? And the simpler it is, the easier it is to do consistently because there's so many things. You're
yeah,
responsible for driving revenue. You're responsible for doing the marketing. You're responsible for customer service. You're responsible for financials. And like the more that you can hire for and outsource and fractional, I think is really great, assuming that you know those people, you trust those people, and there's evidence of the quality of work. But the more that you can surround yourself by being able to delegate and you can focus on the thing that you're really good at in your business and
yeah,
do that as unconsciously consistently as you possibly can, that is the key to real significant success
mhm.
early. And then you're able to compound that and grow from there. It's overwhelming. There's so many things that have to happen for a business,
Yeah,
and if you allow yourself to be overwhelmed and you allow yourself to think about all the moving parts, you get paralyzed really easily.
yeah. And what about new dads? What would you recommend for new dads?
spend as much time with that little buddy as you can. You're going to get to 3 so fast.
Yeah.
And once that baby stage is gone, it's gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just savor it, because there'll be more deals. There'll be more opportunities to, do whatever it is for the business. You are not going to get another opportunity to smell that baby. You're not going to get another opportunity to bathe that baby. You're
Yeah.
not going to be there for the first cruise on the couch and first couple steps. Like, I unfortunately was not there for my oldest son's, first steps and stuff like that, because football was demanding. It took all of our time. And so when I became an entrepreneur and decided that I would control my schedule, I said,
Yeah.
I'm not going to allow anything to get in the way of me doing that. So whether it's the first day at new school, whether it's the parent teacher conference, like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to be there for it, because you're going to regret not doing it if you miss it.
Yeah. You'll never regret being there. That's for sure.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Can you think back about maybe some great advice that you've gotten from another dad or another founder? What's something that really stuck with you?
So I worked with a coach at Lafayette College who was the defensive coordinator, and he had 3 rules, right? It was a simple framework or structure that he had for his kids, and
Yeah.
everything fell into that.
Uh-huh.
And so I think kids are crazy. They're going to do a lot. Find a really simple framework that you can reiterate over and over to your kids to help guide their decision making and their behavior. For
Yeah.
us, our rules are number
Mhm.
1, listen to mom and dad. Number 2, don't hurt yourself. And number 3, don't hurt others. That's it.
Right.
Nice.
And we try to fit everything into that.
Right. It's
Like,
it's like organizational values.
right.
Just
Right.
go with it.
It's simple and you can reiterate it and do it consistently. Nobody really tells you that, like, running a business or running a team is the same as parenting. Like, core
Yeah.
values are important. And if people
Yeah.
don't know them and can't live them, then you have no
Right.
culture. Right. So it's the same for your kids, and they can start grasping it really early. Like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
we've been telling my youngest son those rules since he was a baby, and now
Yeah.
he can recite them. Does he
Yeah.
follow
Yeah.
them? Hardly ever. But does he know them? Does he know them? Yeah, he knows them. And am I able to then say to him, what's rule number 2?
Yeah.
Right? If he's doing something to endanger himself that's going to hurt
Right.
himself, right? Hey, what's rule number 2? Don't hurt yourself. This is breaking that rule,
Right.
right? And so you can constantly, you're not coaching them on a million things. Don't hit, don't say that, right? Or be kind, and get
Right.
simple things for the kids that you can reiterate over and over. That wasn't necessarily advice that he gave me. I
Yeah.
just saw
Yeah.
him do it with his kids, and I was like, "Oh, that's awesome!" And I'm gonna
Yeah.
do that.
Yeah. We got if you ask my kids what like the rules are, they are certainly do what you need to do than what you want to do.
Yeah,
That's sort of like one of our big ones. And then the other ones are we are a nice family and we act nicely. And just like so any rule that anything you want to say or do to anyone here or anyone outside of here,
Yeah.
we're a nice family and we do things nicely. So
Yeah.
act
I love
nice.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've got 4 and 6, so I'm even more simple. I'm just be kind. And one rule,
Yeah,
be kind. Whatever
amen.
you're doing, your choice to become.
I've been really fortunate to be around a lot of founders. I've been really fortunate to work around a lot of entrepreneurs. Been
Yeah.
fortunate
Yeah.
to watch my dad do it. So, and I think the most resounding fundamentals that I've heard from every entrepreneur is get the sales of the business right.
Yeah.
If you have sales, all of your other problems feel small. And as
Yeah.
soon as you don't have sales, everything is amplified.
Yeah.
So master your sales process, master your sales hiring, master your sales onboarding, master your sales game plan and the revenue side of the business, because it
Mhm.
makes everything else doable.
Yeah. So we think about your father transitioned the business to you. You're the president now. 30 years from now, you're handing the business over to your eldest son or to both the sons. What's the legacy you want to leave behind for them?
Similar to what my dad has left behind for me, that relationships are everything,
Yeah.
that, your brand is who you are. And so have a company logo that could change a million times. The brand is who you are. It's the way you make people feel. It's the way you show up, and that will be carried with you forever. And so I'm fortunate that my dad has left an unbelievable brand and legacy in our marketplace with our
Yeah.
name.
Mhm.
And I hope I'm able to do the same for my boys if they want to come into the business. There is no pressure, right? Like, I'll never forget telling my dad that I wanted to go into coaching, right? And having to have that conversation of like, I'm graduating and maybe I'm not going to come home and go into the business like we've been planning for the last 8 years, you know?
Right.
And his thing for me was, if you're passionate about it and you love it, I will help support you do that.
Yeah.
And as soon as you're not, that means it's time to get out.
Yeah.
And I carried that with me for 14 years, my entire career. As long as I knew I was willing to commit and sacrifice and it's what I loved, I was there. And as
Yeah.
soon as I had the slightest little break in that belief, I was like, oh, I got to call my dad. And I gotta have a conversation with him about, like, maybe it's time for me to get out. Like, maybe it's time for me to make a change. And he was there to support me just the way he was when I told him I wasn't coming home to go into the business and I wanted to take this opportunity that I had to go into coaching. So
Yeah.
there's no pressure from my boys, for anybody in our family, to come into our business. The pressure is, find what you love, find what you're passionate about, and commit to working hard at that.
All right, Mark, this has been amazing. I have one final question for you, though.
Okay.
You talked about in the beginning, on the ball, 1% better. That's what you guys live every day. What does it mean to be on the ball and get 1% better every day as a dad?
It means commitment to doing whatever's necessary for the family, right? So if you need to go pick up the kids so your wife can go to a facial, you do that. If you need to go pick them up from school because they got a fever, you're doing that.
Yeah.
If it means reading Little Mermaid, the book, for the 9 millionth time in the morning before you go to work, it's doing that, right? It's
Yeah.
just the commitment to whatever is necessary that day for your family. I think if you're present and you're willing to do whatever's needed,
Yeah.
you're going to be a great dad no matter what.
Yeah. Love it. All right, Mark. We appreciate you so much, your time and all the great insights you brought today. If folks are looking for you, where can they find you? Anything coming up that you want to talk about?
Best place to get me is on LinkedIn. Absolutely. There's a no-brainer for that. I'm there. I'm active. I'm engaged all the time. If you connect with me, add a personal note to it and let me know how you found me or what made you want to connect. You can check out our website if you're interested in hearing about what we do. That's www.ontheball.co. And we are out there everywhere. We're not hard to find, as Coach Prime likes to say. So whether it's our podcast, whether it's our social channels, or whether it's just getting together for a conversation, we're always down to meet new people.